India, a land vast and layered with time, where more than 1 billion people fill its bustling cities and quiet rural landscapes. Across this immense expanse, hundreds of languages are spoken and countless beliefs are practiced, each thread woven into a civilization among the oldest known to humanity. Archaeological evidence traces continuous settlements here back over 11,000 years, revealing a lineage of enduring culture and innovation. Amid this deep past lie ancient Sanskrit manuscripts, some dating as far back as 6,000 years before the Common Era. These texts describe with surprising precision a class of flying craft called vimanas. The writings tell of machines that moved through the sky with immense force, their power so great that elephants were said to flee, and grass was blown flat by their wake. While most historians regard these accounts as poetic allegory or mythic symbolism, others see in them the echoes of an early scientific imagination, an ancient attempt to grasp the mystery of flight long before the modern age. India's ancient texts contain ideas that continue to puzzle historians and scientists alike. Although most scholars interpret the stories of the vimanas as symbolic myths rather than literal accounts, many Sanskrit documents describe these flying machines with striking technical detail. Among them, the Vimanika Shastra stands out. This manuscript not only lists metals allegedly used in the construction of such craft, but also refers to sources of power that sound reminiscent of electricity. It describes the attire of the pilots, the food they consumed, and even the types of weapons that were supposedly carried aboard these aerial vehicles. The text reads like a manual, structured and procedural, similar in tone to the technical documentation required for operating modern aircraft or military jets, where every pilot must understand the systems of the machine before flight. According to interpretations of these writings, the vimanas could even be guided through mental control, a concept that, while unverified, echoes current experimental research in neural interfaces being explored by modern defense and aerospace programs. To civilizations thousands of years ahead of us, such technology might seem ordinary, yet to our eyes, it would appear indistinguishable from magic, blending electromagnetic systems with conscious intention. Within the Vimanika Shastra, the proposed mechanism for propulsion is equally fascinating. It describes a sealed chamber filled with liquid mercury, within which several gyroscopes rotated to generate lift and motion. In modern terms, a gyroscope is a spinning wheel or disc that maintains its orientation through angular momentum. When force is applied to its axis, it resists change, attempting to realign itself with its original position. This principle, known as precession, is used today in aircraft, spacecraft, and submarines to maintain stability and navigation by tracking orientation and movement relative to a starting point. The ancient texts mention of Mercury in motion, creating what it calls a driving wind, may be interpreted as an early description of a flywheel or energy storage system, where rotational energy is gradually extracted to generate propulsion. Engineers today use similar ideas in mechanical energy storage, where a spinning disk releases energy to power systems efficiently. Mercury's density would make it suitable for compact power generation, allowing significant output from a relatively small mass. The concept of using spinning mechanisms and liquid metal vortices to achieve lift or thrust remains speculative, yet it shows a remarkable early attempt to reason about flight and motion in physical terms. Whether these passages reflect imagination, symbolic cosmology, or a glimpse of lost experimentation, they reveal a civilization deeply curious about the forces of nature and the mechanics of the skies, a bridge between mythic vision and the earliest stirrings of scientific thought. Across the history of human thought, few questions have stirred as much wonder as how a civilization could travel faster than light. For many, this idea belongs to the realm of science fiction. Yet in the ancient world, such concepts were not only imagined, but studied through the lens of spirituality and metaphysics. In India, the foundation of Hindu philosophy, the Vedas, contains passages that some interpret as describing principles of energy, motion, and space that resemble the language of modern physics. These sacred texts, written in early Sanskrit, form the spiritual and intellectual heart of Indian civilization. According to traditional belief, the Vedas were not composed by humans, but revealed directly by divine beings, then transmitted orally across generations before being inscribed on palm leaves thousands of years ago. Scholars of Vedic literature often point out that the texts cover a remarkably broad range of subjects. They discuss architecture, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, weaponry, and the organization of society, all expressed through a symbolic yet structured style. Some see in them not just metaphors, but technical systems, rules of proportion, geometry, and harmony that influence the design of everything from temples to cities. To devotees, the Vedas are more than scripture. They are a cosmic instruction manual, a gift from higher intelligence meant to guide humanity toward both spiritual and material balance. Among the many architectural traditions derived from these teachings is Vastu Shastra, sometimes referred to as Ayurvedic or Vedic architecture, a system rooted in precise geometric alignment, and natural energy flow. One striking example of this heritage can be found in Sirpur, India, where the Sarang Tila Temple still stands as a silent witness to that ancient science. Built in the 7th century of the Common Era, the temple was buried by a powerful earthquake 4 centuries later. Yet while surrounding structures were reduced to rubble, the temple itself endured, its foundations nearly unshaken. Archaeologists attribute its resilience to the ancient building principles described in Vedic texts. In 2017, researcher Giorgio Tsoukalos visited the site with archaeologist Dr. Arun Sharma, who led the excavation. Dr. Sharma explained that the temple was constructed using massive stone blocks bonded with a natural adhesive known as Ayurvedic paste, an ancient mortar created from herbs, minerals, and organic compounds. Unlike modern cement, which weakens over decades, this substance retains its strength for millennia. Even after 1,600 years, parts of the original structure remain firmly bound. Samples show the paste forming an almost seamless connection between the stones, more akin to resin or glue than to traditional mortar. Modern analysis suggests that its tensile strength could be many times greater than standard concrete. Yet the exact chemical process behind it remains largely unknown. The formula for this extraordinary binder appears in an ancient text called the Mayamatam, a comprehensive Sanskrit treatise on architecture and urban planning. The manuscript, composed several thousand years ago, outlines construction techniques, city layouts, and methods for balancing environmental and spiritual harmony within structures. Its teachings are said to have originated from Mayasura, a legendary figure described as the architect of the gods and builder of celestial cities. While such tales are viewed as mythological, many scholars acknowledge that the underlying design principles demonstrate a deep understanding of structural integrity and environmental adaptation. At Sarang Tila, further evidence of advanced knowledge emerges in the temple's earthquake-resistant design. Deep within the site, engineers discovered a network of shafts, each stretching nearly 80 feet long, placed strategically to form air pockets. These cavities function as shock absorbers, diffusing seismic vibrations and preserving the temple's balance during tremors. The precision of this design suggests an intuitive grasp of engineering principles that would not be formally articulated in modern science until many centuries later. Dr. Sharma's team documented the site extensively, showing how sections of the structure that followed the ancient techniques remained almost perfectly intact, while those repaired with modern cement showed visible cracking. The original texts, he explained, detail every phase of construction, from the preparation of building materials to the alignment of the structure with cardinal directions and celestial patterns. These volumes, preserved for over 4.5 millennia through oral and written transmission, remain among India's most remarkable architectural guides. When asked about the origin of such sophisticated knowledge, Dr. Sharma offered a perspective shared by many adherents of ancient astronaut theories, that humanity may have received insights from visitors beyond Earth. Though unverified by empirical science, this belief reflects a long-standing tradition in Indian cosmology, that wisdom descends from the stars. In the Vedic worldview, the boundary between divine and cosmic intelligence is fluid. Gods, sages, and celestial beings are not distant abstractions, but participants in the ongoing story of creation. Whether these stories record encounters with extraterrestrial travelers or serve as allegories for humankind's own awakening to science and consciousness, they reveal something profound. Thousands of years ago, people sought to understand the universe not only through faith, but through careful observation and experimentation. They built monuments aligned with the cosmos, recorded intricate formulas for construction and healing, and speculated about the forces that shape matter and light. The temples that survive today stand as living testaments to that union of spirit and intellect, where architecture, mythology, and science converge into a single pursuit: the timeless human desire to reach beyond the limits of the known world. Along the banks of the Omo River in Ethiopia, a waterway that stretches roughly 400 miles south into Lake Turkana, lies one of the most important corridors in the story of human origins. This remote valley, carved by time and sediment, has yielded a remarkable concentration of fossils belonging to early primates, including chimpanzees, gorillas, and the first recognizable ancestors of humankind. In 1967, paleoanthropologist Richard Leakey and his team uncovered 2 partial human skulls here. When dated, the remains were found to be about 195,000 years old, marking them as the oldest known fossils of anatomically modern humans, Homo sapiens. For scientists, the discovery reinforced Africa's position as the cradle of humanity. Each new find in this region, whether fragments of bone or stone tools, helps refine the evolutionary picture, connecting our lineage to the broader family of great apes. The fossil record reveals a complex and branching tree of life. Somewhere deep in prehistory, our line diverged from that of the chimpanzees, our closest living relatives. Later, species such as Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon appeared, representing distinct experiments of evolution. Neanderthals eventually vanished, while Cro-Magnons gave rise to modern humans. The question of why one species endured while others disappeared has long fascinated researchers. Some point to adaptability and cooperation as key advantages. Others, especially proponents of ancient astronaut theories, suggest a more dramatic explanation, that a sudden external influence altered our genetic path. According to this view, the extraordinary leap in intelligence and culture that followed, seen in the rapid rise of civilizations such as Sumer and the building of monumental architecture like the pyramids, was not merely evolutionary chance. They describe it instead as an artificial mutation, a deliberate intervention by non-human intelligences who modified early humans for a purpose. These theorists argue that humanity's abrupt emergence of language, mathematics, and astronomy represents a quantum leap of knowledge that natural evolution alone cannot explain. The question of who these possible visitors were and why they came is at the heart of the ancient astronaut hypothesis. Supporters often turn to the earliest written records, the clay tablets of ancient Sumer, for evidence. In 1849, British archaeologist Austin Henry Layard excavated more than 22,000 such tablets in the ruins of Nineveh, in what is now northern Iraq, inscribed with wedge-shaped cuneiform symbols. These documents are among the oldest known examples of writing, dating back 6,000 years. In the 20th century, author Zecharia Sitchin dedicated over 3 decades to translating and interpreting these texts. His 1976 book, The 12th Planet, offered a controversial reading, that the Sumerian records tell of an extraterrestrial race called the Anunnaki, who arrived on Earth from a distant planet beyond Neptune, named Nibiru. According to Sitchin's interpretation, the Anunnaki's own world was suffering from a deteriorating atmosphere. To repair it, they sought gold and other rare minerals, which they allegedly mined on Earth. Finding the work difficult, Sitchin claimed, they engineered a hybrid species, Homo sapiens, by combining their genetic material with that of early hominids. These new beings, our ancestors, were designed to serve as laborers in the mines and on the fields. The Sumerians, unaware of genetic science, interpreted their creators as gods descending from the heavens. In their myths, the Anunnaki granted humanity knowledge, language, agriculture, and the arts, and appointed human kings to serve as mediators between mortals and the divine. Over time, this partnership laid the foundation for what we now call civilization. Around 3,000 years before the Common Era, great monuments began to rise across the world. Stonehenge in Britain, the pyramids of Egypt, and massive stone complexes in Mesopotamia and South America. Mainstream archaeologists attribute these achievements to human ingenuity, teamwork, and centuries of trial and error. Yet ancient astronaut theorists argue that such feats required tools and understanding beyond what was available at the time, suggesting that humanity's gods may have provided advanced technologies to their followers. In Sumerian myth, the Anunnaki are described as those who from the heavens came. For believers in the theory, this phrase is more literal than poetic. They interpret it as evidence that extraterrestrial visitors once walked among humans, guiding their progress and sharing fragments of their science. They point to the global consistency of ancient legends, stories of beings descending from the sky, teaching agriculture, architecture, and astronomy, as hints of a shared, forgotten truth. While mainstream science regards these claims as speculative and unverified, they remain a powerful metaphor for humanity's enduring curiosity about its own origins. Whether our ancestors were shaped solely by evolution or by something more mysterious, the question unites myth and science in a single pursuit: understanding how we became who we are. The stones of Ethiopia, the tablets of Sumer, and the monuments scattered across continents all tell variations of the same story. A story of emergence, transformation, and the timeless human urge to look up at the heavens and wonder where we truly came from. The Hebrew Bible recounts one of the most enduring stories in human history, the Exodus. It tells of the Jewish people living as slaves under the rule of the Pharaohs in ancient Egypt. Around the 14th century before the Common Era, fearing their growing numbers, the Egyptian ruler issued a cruel decree. Every firstborn male child among the Hebrews was to be killed. In desperation, a mother sought to save her infant son by placing him in a small reed basket and setting it afloat upon the Nile River. The child was discovered by the Pharaoh's daughter, who named him Moses and raised him as her own within the royal household. Years later, after discovering his true heritage, Moses confronted the Pharaoh and demanded freedom for his people. When the ruler refused, Moses led the Israelites out of bondage, beginning one of the most dramatic journeys recorded in Scripture. According to biblical accounts, the fleeing Israelites crossed the Red Sea and entered the barren expanse of the Sinai Desert. There, their faith was tested. When they turned to idol worship, the texts say that God grew angry and condemned them to wander for 40 years before reaching the Promised Land. During this long trial, their survival depended on a mysterious food called manna, described as sustenance provided directly by heaven. Yet the true nature of manna has remained an enduring mystery. Was it a natural phenomenon, a type of edible resin or seed, or something far stranger? The Bible offers only vague clues. It describes manna as small, seed-like flakes that appeared each morning with the dew. The Israelites gathered it daily, except on the Sabbath, when a double portion was collected in advance. For many centuries, scholars assumed manna referred to a naturally occurring food source, perhaps a desert secretion from certain trees or insects. But later, Jewish mystical writings offered a more enigmatic explanation. The Zohar, a 13th century commentary central to Kabbalistic thought, expands upon the story of manna in symbolic and visionary terms. It attributes the gift of manna to an entity known as the Ancient of Days, described in vivid detail, possessing multiple faces, brains, and tubes of light. Theologians have long viewed these descriptions as mystical representations of divine energy. However, modern interpreters have sometimes proposed a more literal reading, one that suggests these passages could describe a form of advanced technology. In the 1970s, two British electrical engineers, George Sassoon and Rodney Dale, attempted to reinterpret the Zohar using their technical expertise, treating the text as an encoded manual rather than purely allegorical scripture. They reconstructed a speculative blueprint for what they called the manna machine. Their design imagined a compact, self-contained device capable of producing edible biomass in desert conditions. According to their analysis, the mouth mentioned in the text was in fact an air intake, channeling the breath of life, humid air, into a condensation chamber. This chamber, described as the brain or dew still, collected moisture and combined it with an algae culture. Under concentrated light, possibly from a laser-like energy source, the algae would grow rapidly and yield a nutrient-rich food. Sassoon and Dale further hypothesized that this process required an independent power supply. They suggested a small nuclear reactor might have provided both the necessary heat and light, drawing parallels between the device and the mysterious Ark of the Covenant described in the Bible. According to their theory, the Ark functioned as both a container for the power source and a transport vessel for the manna machine itself. In biblical stories, those who mishandled the Ark were struck dead, and some accounts mention symptoms such as hair loss and peeling skin, effects that could, in modern understanding, resemble radiation poisoning. While mainstream historians and theologians dismiss this interpretation as speculative, it continues to intrigue those who explore intersections between science, religion, and mythology. From a symbolic perspective, the manna machine represents humanity's search for sustenance and divine connection through knowledge. From a technological one, it suggests that ancient texts may preserve misunderstood memories of early machinery or natural processes described in metaphorical terms. Whether manna was a supernatural gift, a natural phenomenon, or a poetic allegory, the story continues to resonate as a lesson about dependence, faith, and the pursuit of understanding. It reminds us that throughout history, people have looked to the heavens for answers to earthly needs: food, power, and survival. The blending of myth and mechanism in the legend of Mana reflects a timeless truth: that humankind has always sought to bridge the gap between divine mystery and scientific discovery. So, as the desert winds carried the songs of those who wandered beneath the burning sky, the mysterious glow of the ark shimmered in the distance. A vessel said to hold both divine fire and forbidden power. Each dawn, a fine dust would fall with the dew, the manna that kept them alive through endless years of exile. No one could explain how it came or why it vanished with the sunrise. Some whispered it was the breath of God made visible. Others feared it was the work of an ancient engine, humming softly within the sacred tent. The air was heavy with faith and awe, and among the shifting dunes, the people moved onward, fed not only by the strange substance from the heavens, but by the conviction that something beyond human understanding was walking beside them, guiding them toward the promised light on the far horizon.